What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by hip hop supergroup Kids See Ghost. Basically, this project is called self-titled Kids See Ghost, and that came out in the late spring of 2018. So this project, basically, the artists in this supergroup would be Kid Cudi and Kanye West, as far as those pitches kind of particularly happen with it. Now, to my knowledge, Kid Cudi and Kanye West have had some recent beefing, at least back in 2021, 2022, some of those type pitches when Kanye was kind of having like not necessarily meltdowns, but just like some Twitter type problems, just like some rants and pitches like that when he was kind of being controversial. But that's normal. That's normal for Kanye around these particular times. But back in like 2018, it was less frequent as far as that pitch can happen. But Kid Cudi and Kanye West do have like frequent chemistry and pitches like that. Kanye was one of the ones that first discovered Kid Cudi back in like the mid late 2000s as far as pitches like that kind of particularly happened. So it was only a matter of time before like these collaboration albums started to happen. It's definitely too bad they're kind of it's definitely too bad that they're somewhat not on like the best terms as of this exact moment, because another Kids See Ghost album would be definitely pretty excellent. This is a pretty rave type album here. Another surprise hit for Kanye that continues his string of hit albums as far as pitches like that kind of happens. I would say if this would have been a lengthier album, this probably would have been a full-blown classic. It's only 7 songs, but out of those 7 songs I wound up recommending 6. It's a pretty good pitch, all but on the cusp of being like a full-blown classic in my opinion. I'd say definitely some heralded type stuff, real excellent type flair. It's a different taste compared to Kanye West's 2018 album Yay, as far as pitches like that kind of happen. This is a very ghostly, just like obviously with it being called Kids See Ghosts, it's a very kind of, the composition of this particular album is just very ghastly and poltergeist like, I'd have to say in particular, just very with the psychedelic type flair of Kid Cudi's usual type stuff with some of that R&B type stuff from 808s and Heartbreak and pitches like that. The only problem, one of the few problems about this particular product is just the fact that it doesn't have a single or really much promotion. This one just kind of came out. It seemed like Kanye promoted Yay, the album from 2018, a little bit more than this particular one, which is too bad because I feel like there's a lot of quality songs in here. It would have been interesting in seeing what could the possibility of like music videos and singles as far as this pitch kind of happens with it. But it is a pretty excellent project, like I was saying, very superb just within the sense of how this particular kind of happened. This is definitely, they do need to probably get to doing some more stuff like this. Just would have to say in particular, just some excellent type flair to kind of get within that. Really like the aesthetic of this particular project. There's not too many albums like this. This definitely wins in like originality factor as far as that particular kind of happens. It's kind of, I would have to say, like a taste of like 808s and Heartbreak with like, it doesn't really have like the space appeal of Kid Cudi's normal type stuff. This is a little bit more supernatural as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I'm trying to think of like some sort of partition like type stuff as far as pitches like that would kind of happen. Something of that aspect. It's kind of a relative good theme here to kind of, it's a pretty damn good theme to kind of get off this particular type of stuff. Very ghoulish just within the concept of some of that. But it does have like some work shift about it. It's pretty straightforward and like the concept kind of getting some of this, just the aspect kind of similar to like folks like Ghostfire. Some of this stuff reminds me of Ghostfire, the band, even despite how low key they are, just looking within the pitch behind it, but just without the saloon hopping and pitches like that, just the more ethereal type of moaning, I'd have to say. But it is a good concept, kind of get some of this ghastly type taste because, yeah, like I was saying, the originality factor of this album is pretty damn high. Just the concept of some of this ghastly typeness. I mean, to describe it, it's very industrial and it's just very scaping just within the concept of just having like a very kind of, it's relative dredge just within the evening shift that just got done with work, but it just feels like autumn pitch, kind of moody. The moodiness of Kid Cudi with some of his kind of more emo rap type stuff, just within the concept of being within a spook type tone and more autumn type music, just within a work shift type sense, just without the promotion. That's the basic concept I was getting from some of this, but it just very feels like supernatural. And it's a good concept to just kind of get that just without promotion. I'd say it's just a good thing. So yeah, there's 7 songs on this particular album, and out of those 7 songs, there's really only one I don't recommend in any fashion. That would just be "Feel the Love" featuring Pusha T. And that's not to say anything against Pusha T. I am going to have to get some Clips albums like Hell Hath No Fury, some of those type pitches, Lord Will, some of those type ones. Their 2009 album, but I would have to say in particular, this album just "Feel the Love" just didn't particularly do it as much. I kind of saw it, I somewhat saw "Feel the Love" as like a miniature kind of smoking song, but Kid Cudi and Kanye West just kind of do background vocals on this particular song. They don't really contribute to much on this particular one, so it's not really as much Kids See Ghosts as much as it is just Pusha T just rapping like a relatively lengthy verse as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I'd say it's a relative smoking song just here and there, but the production's really not that fantastic on this particular one. It's kind of like a here and there kind of hangout type one. There are some hangout type songs on here. I feel like at least I feel like Kids See Ghosts, the title track is at least a relative good hangout type song to kind of get, and a little bit of like Feel the Love might be some of that particular pitch, but it just didn't really jump off the page within the extremity of it. I don't think this is like a horrible song, but it's just not as much like one of the definitive It's just not one to really spearhead this project in terms of like the attention grabbingness that it particularly kind of has. I do feel like compared to some of these more ghastly type ones, it just kind of feels like an in between kind of afterthought of like a smoking song. But so I'm not going to recommend that one. But it is, this album is going to get over a 9 out of 10. It's just a pretty good pitch. Just saying 6 out of 7 is pretty excellent. So basically, Cudi montage is a real nice one. It's like a dusky and kind of evening dredge of like a doom sounding kind of commerce, I would have to say in particular. This has like an industrial feel and it's like some standard late outs, I would have to say. So it's a pretty good concept of standard late dredge pitches like that as far as that particular kind of happens. Just a little bit more, not necessarily ethereal, but just kind of more like that relative kind of paranoia and just kind of dusky, kind of just relative paranoia, just for lack of better phrasing, just to say relative paranoia and just the concept of just a little bit more unsettledness, just as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Real dusky kind of industrial typeness kind of get off some of these. Cudi montage and fire, two ones within that relative type pitch that really nail that particular vibe pretty well. But both these songs, Cudi montage and fire, are pretty appealing type ones to get from like Kids See Ghosts, the group, as far as pitches like that kind of happens. A new taste of some of these type of aspects. Kanye hasn't done too many songs like this. It's very dirge like and some of that relative industrial type appeal. Fire is another nice one just within that pitch. It's like a gasoline kind of mill dust like day after. Fire is like a gasoline kind of mill dust like day after hours activity, I would have to say in particular. It's like a good pairing with Cudi mod. The song is like a good pairing with Cudi montage. Like I was saying, this is a pretty industrial type one to kind of get. So it's an excellent type concept here. Great 1-2 punch for some of these type ones. Just some good album type cuts just for some of that ghastly typeness. It's real kind of paranormal type thinking as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Just some great autumn type music just to kind of have that ghastly kind of crispness as far as pitches like that kind of go. It has like the normal, kind of pop rap psychedelia of like Kid Cudi mixed with some Kanye West, is kind of a little bit more spooky type tone. Kanye is just a little bit more different. He's not necessarily like a prep or like the normal kind of like vanilla rap artist that he normally is on some of his 2010s and 2000s projects. It's a different taste for Kanye, but he fits the sound particularly well. I mean, normally when you think of like more ghastly horrorcore type stuff or pitches like that within paranormal sense, you don't really think of Kanye West, but he has pretty good approach with some of these. Free Ghost Town Part 2 is a pretty nice one. This is like an out on the town kind of in like an unworldly gusto and kind of haunting pep kind of tone, I would have to say in particular. Some good stuff here. Just really feels otherworldly pitches like that. Just some real overbearing, not necessarily overbearing in a bad way, but just real commanding and just overall just feel good type song. I'd say in like a ghostly type sense. It's like some payday music. I would definitely feel like this got paid. Some pitches like that just feel good, just within a more kind of just poltergeist type theme pitches like that. If you just live in like the world of like horror movies and pitches like that, some of those type tones of like just movies like The Ring and some of those type pitches, I say this is a pretty good concept for that. It's like some autumn kind of feel good type music, I would definitely have to say. Real excellent type concept. So I do appreciate a lot of these. Reborn is a pretty nice one, I'd have to say. It's like a moody and more vintage kind of bloodletting from like Cudi and Kanye. I would definitely have to suppose in particular. It's like an 808s and heartbreak type vibe that this pitch kind of gives. Both Kid Cudi and Kanye particularly helm that particular project, 808s and heartbreak, but this is like a more vintage type vibe with some of that type of appeal. And this is just, yeah, this is like an 808s vibe with like a pop rap kind of piano ballad about it. So this is another one that probably could have been a single as far as pitches like that kind of particular, particularly happen with this. It's a real nice one to kind of get here. Just some good bloodletting just within that relative pitch. I mean, it's not quite as much for the ladies as far as pitches like that kind of happen, but it is kind of a good concept. Just kind of get some of that haunting type moodiness, just some good emo rap from Cudi, some good concepts from Kanye as far as pitches like that kind of happen. The standard type of feel. This is the most vanilla type one off this particular album, the one with like the least amount of like ghastliness and overall ghoulishness, apart from just like the song Feel the Love, I'd have to say. Kids See Ghosts is a pretty nice one. The title track, it's like a dirge-like kind of spook turn up of a song, I'd have to say. It's definitely like some good hangout jig type music, I would definitely feel like. And it's like some great autumn relative bounce, I would have to say. Definitely smoke a few and you're just wide awake with this particular type tune, I'd have to say, with this one. One of the few type songs that just more club oriented type stuff. For the most part, this is more straightforward and work centric, I'd have to suppose. Not necessarily full blown like just standard bland kind of more makeshift. That's just kind of a more straightforward point A to point B type tone, but just a little bit. Most of this album's just more commerce in mind and just the concept of just wanderlust, just with like the concept of like some ghastly kind of ruminating. But this particular song, Kids See Ghosts, has a little bit of appeal. Kids See Ghosts, the title track, has some appeal. Just the concept of like some dirge like kind of hangout type fare, just within the concept of this. some haunting kind of autumn type smoke type songs, pitches like that. It's a good concept because Kanye hasn't done too many songs like this, and Kid Cudi doesn't often do songs like this either, just within that relative pitch. They both smoke, but it's just kind of the concept. This is an interesting type one. It has some relative club turn up on here, despite the fact that most of this album doesn't have that particular vibe as far as pitches like that kind of go. But this particular song is a nice avenue for that, I'd have to say. Then Fourth Dimension is a pretty nice one. It's like a choir-like kind of ghoulish militance of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a basic kind of out and about ruminating, I would have to suppose, with like a haunting flavor. I would definitely say about this one. It's a pretty grim one. Just a pretty good concept for that. If you like Jesus Walks by Kanye West, just with the more ghoulish and kind of militant type tone about it, just with a little bit more of like a dirge-like feel and a little bit more spook of like just overall partition type ambience about it, I'd say it's a pretty good concept. It's just the standard kind of workaday type one, I'd have to suppose, keeps that relative kind of commerce of just workaday type dredge, just evening after hours pitches like that, just within the concept of some good autumn music, but just a little bit more haunting, just a little bit more single ready. I would have to say that there's some songs on this particular album that do have some relative kind of commercial appeal, despite the fact that there weren't any singles chosen. Like I feel like Fourth Dimension, Reborn, possibly Fire, some of these type ones have that relative appeal as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I would even say Free Ghost Town Part 2 has a good attempt of being able to do that. So most of the sound's pretty commercial, just within the sense it's just kind of an alternative sense of how it does it. It just has that ghastly type of appeal that is not necessarily like it's hardcore. It's just kind of the concept. It's just left field, I would have to suppose, in particular, as far as how it particularly kind of happens. It's not the most, I don't want to say it's not consumer friendly, but it's just a little bit of like a left field. Once again, to say left field, this kind of alternative type aspect in like a pop rap kind of sense from two artists that are kind of alternative, but also kind of pop rap just within the sense of doing it. So it's just kind of like a secondary type decision from some of these folks as far as like afterthought kind of territory, but definitely some good concepts. So the score I'm going to give this album, me recommending 6 out of 7 songs in here, I'm going to give this album like a 9.25 out of 10, all but on the cusp of getting like a 10 out of 10. Definitely pretty damn near close to a classic. If it had more songs, if they had put more than 7 songs on here, I'm fairly certain it probably would have gotten probably a lot higher of a score had there been more quality type ones. Makes me question some of the songs that were left over in some of these sessions as to what some of those could have been. The social score I'm going to give a 9.5 out of 10, just because I would give it a 10 out of 10 just because of the quality of these songs. A lot of these are just pretty boisterous moments, including the song I didn't recommend, which is like a mildly decent kind of smoking song feel of love, I'd have to say. For the most part, there's some good moments, that good after hours kind of industrial dredge pitches like that, some good kind of out on the town ghastliness, a good song like Jesus Walks just in a more haunting and dirge-like sense, some good kind of bloodletting from the 808s days and some pitches like that. There's some overall relatively ghastly kind of spook of like a smoking hangout club type song, kind of getting kids see goes to title track. So good concepts, but this album just didn't have a single. Don't know why they didn't promote it further as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Would have been a good concept just saying it, but it's a relatively bullseye type project, I would have to say in particular. It's just kind of the concept that it just kind of came and went, and so more if you know type territory. You just digest it as you will, and you just decide for yourself as to the songs that you particularly kind of full blown see towards. I mean, there are some relative singles, but it just didn't really have the music videos or promotion. That's just kind of the thing. So 9.5 social. In terms of the future, like Kanye West just recently dropped Vultures too, so that's a pretty good pitch to kind of get that. We're going to get to some more Kanye as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I'm going to get to some more Kid Cudi as well, just within that relative pitch. I do want to review Man on the Moon too and some of those type ones. Hopefully at some stage Kid Cudi and Kanye West will reunite. We'll get another Kid See Ghost album. I mean, it seems less likely nowadays just because it's been over 6 years, but I'd say it's not a bad thing to suppose that maybe this could possibly happen years later as far as pitches like that kind of go. Even if we only get like a few collaboration songs, it'd still be a pretty good pitch to have them return to that relative form to get some of this, because it's definitely like a real clever one. It's all on the cusp of being a classic. This is definitely a real clever and just overall ghastly, engaging and original look for 2018 as far as pitches like that kind of happen. It's an excellent combination, excellent Cudi album as far as pitches like that kind of happen, excellent Kanye album in later years. So overall nails it. So it's a pretty good concept kind of get some of this.